Finally, you're here. It feels like I've been waiting forever. No, I know it's not your fault. It's just that today I'm feeling so blah. As you can see, I haven't even managed to get myself out of bed today. That's why I summoned you to my chambers. Well, I'm glad you asked. I'd have told you anyway, of course, but still. Well, it's all thanks to the common rabble. They've been making things ever so difficult for me, my little helper. Oh, it's all the same things as usual, really. Revolts, petitions, general rabble arousing. But lately, it's been happening more and more often. All across my empire, the commoners are banding together and causing all sorts of mischief. It's made everything more difficult. But it's been especially hard on trade routes. I had to wait 3 extra days for my new silk sheets to arrive. 3! And don't even get me started on all the horrible things they're saying. If you think Evil Queen is bad, then you don't know the half of what those dreadful plebeians are capable of thinking of. It's as though all the time they could be spending on serving me and being productive, they're putting towards nasty, filthy, rebellious thoughts instead. Oh, well, you're here to listen to me for the most part. It's no fun complaining to myself. If you need an official reason, then... Oh, I suppose you could be here to advise me on how to manage these outbursts from the masses. I don't really think I need that, though. It's all their fault for being so terrible. I'm just doing my best. And while I'm venting, why don't we enjoy some treats? I need comfort food. But even then, my problems haunt me. All those rebellions and protests mean less options for me. Some of the basics are getting to be hard to come by. I'd commit genocide for something deep-fried, but we're so low on oil that we have to conserve most of it for keeping lamps lit. Ah, right on time. It's a bit meager, but I had the kitchen prepare some treacle tarts and tea cakes. With tea, naturally. Although it has to be herbal. As scant as a snack this is, it's still splurging a bit on ingredients. If this goes on, I might have to resort to, I don't know, sandwiches or something. Is that what commoners eat? Regardless, I hope you enjoy them. Why do I think they're upset? Honestly, I think they're just incapable of appreciating what they have. Always wanting more and more and more. You're a little bit like that too, you know. I see the sour faces you pull when you think I'm not looking. You're very lucky, you know. You get to live in this castle, eat this food, and be in my presence regularly. And yet, you seem to still be testy about little trifles, like how you didn't get a choice. I mean, why should anybody be upset about having a good life, just because it's not the one they chose? You're certainly better than the rest of them, though. You at least know how to hold your tongue. Most of the time, at least. The rest of the rabble say whatever they want, not even bothering to show an ounce of respect. Well, if you mean what they claim is the problem, well, all sorts of things. I raised taxes quite a bit recently. With all the worry over that new alliance, I've been increasing fortifications along the border to make sure they aren't tempted to make a grab at any of the Empire's land. Not to mention, I'm having a secondary citadel built that I can retreat to if things ever get dicey. And that's certainly not cheap. Aside from that, they've been pretty outspoken about how many crimes are punishable by execution. That one, I can't even begin to understand. I mean, what's the problem? If you're not a criminal, you have nothing to fear. If anything, I should be holding more executions to get rid of more criminals. But these things pass with time. It's hardly the first time I've had to deal with the masses and their revolts. I have some things in the works to take care of it. Oh, well, that's unusual. And just a moment ago I praised you for knowing to keep your mouth shut about the things you disagree with. So, you think I'm an awful ruler, do you? Perhaps it's the fact that I've become so desensitized to insults recently, but I don't even mind that she said that. It's just funny to me. I mean, what do you know about ruling an empire? Do you think you could do a better job? Well, you might find that it would be harder than you think. I'm sure in your head you're imagining that you could just end all the taxes, convince every prisoner to become a law-abiding citizen, and give every person in the empire every single thing they ever wanted. You remind me of my father in that respect. Have I told you about him? I'm sure I haven't. I don't tend to talk about him much. Well, before I was the ruler of the Great Abyssal Empire, I was princess of the small kingdom of Geralt. My father was king, and he was an endlessly optimistic and generous man. He loved every single citizen, and believed it was his duty to care for them to the best of his ability. I loved my father dearly. It's hard not to love someone who is so caring, of course, but if anything, that just made it harder to watch him ruin himself. After all, there is such a thing as being too trusting. My poor father chose to believe in the goodness of every person, but sadly, not every person chose to be good. He was taken advantage of his whole life. People knew they could beg him for whatever they wanted, and he'd give it if they were convincing enough. People called him the Fool King. It wore him down, day after day. He spent so much money on granting the masses every wish. Every single city, town, and village in the Empire had clean paved roads, a generous garrison of well-equipped soldiers for protection, and more. And he barely taxed them. But of course, that meant he was constantly draining the royal coffers and borrowing money from other kingdoms. It was impossible for someone to juggle all that forever. Trying to find new ways to get money without demanding it of the citizens became impossible, and the stress of it all drove him to his deathbed. When I took the throne, I inherited the largest debt any kingdom has ever accrued. A part of me really wanted to just finish the job and let the kingdom fall into ruin, just to spite those greedy beasts. But I couldn't let my father's legacy be destroyed, even if his actions nearly doomed it. My first act was to start declaring war with every single kingdom we owed money to, one at a time. It sounds rash, but those well-equipped soldiers I mentioned, combined with my unusually strong affinity for magic, made it more than possible. Not to mention, I was able to repurpose much of the things my father had spent his money on for the war effort. With every victory, I brought another kingdom under my rule. The debt was gradually erased, and I gained their riches. I brought all of those kingdoms under my rule, and formed my empire. After that, I resolved to make the rabble work for my comfort, instead of the other way around. I won't ever repeat the mistakes of the Fool King of Geralt. You know, I'm feeling much better. Once again, you've managed to help me, without even meaning to. I'm astonished that you can do so much so inadvertently. You certainly are my perfect little helper. What, nothing else to say? Were you not expecting me to have a reason for what I do? Everyone thinks that I was just born this way, don't they? That's why they call me the Evil Queen. Such a shame. I can tell you still disagree with me, but it seems you're at a loss for how to respond to my story. Well, I'll tell you. Anytime you don't know what to say to me, you can simply bow and say yes, Your Magnificence. You don't need to be clever, you just need to be obedient. Well, since I'm feeling better, why don't we go for a carriage ride? It's such a lovely day out. Well, I don't actually know that. I haven't looked outside. But I can make it a lovely day if it isn't already. The perks of being a sorceress. Come along, little helper. Hello there, my subjects. If you like this video, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment to show your support. And if you'd like to go a little further, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll make more videos for you. Toodaloo!